Good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is the Urban Land Institute listening session, and we will be starting in just a few minutes.
Press it and then you can talk.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is the Urban Land Institute listening session for our advisory services panel here in Fort Lauderdale. We will be starting officially at 6:05 very shortly. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Museum of Discovery and Science. My name is Aruna Ragbear. I'm the VP of Education here, and we are the Hub for Resilience here in Broward County, and I welcome the City of Fort Lauderdale. So thank you for being here, and I would like to welcome Commissioner Glassman right now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I think this discussion is so really important. I'm thrilled that ULI is here. Thank you and welcome to town. This is an important discussion for Fort Lauderdale, and we have to have these kinds of discussions because we are a town known for our waterways, and I am very interested to hear what everyone has to say. I'm really interested to see what the panel does. Hopefully you've seen some of the backup areas and you know what's going on in the information in the study. You know that roughly about half of the study area is my district, District 2. But this really isn't about districts. This is really about the entire city. So again, this is a vital discussion for us as we head into the future. I'm glad we're having it. People are here to listen to you today. I'll be back when we have our report. I look forward to that, and I just want to say thank you. This is really vital work for our city, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion and for the report. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you, all of you, for your input. It's really important for us, and I'm really thrilled that you're here. And for those that are watching this on live stream, wherever you are, thank you for participating as well. Please let us know if there's anything that we can help you with. Again, thank you for being here for the ULI. We're spending a lot of time together lately, and it's good. I've been attending a lot of ULI meetings, and it's all really good. Again, thank you for being here, and welcome to town. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Hi. Everyone, welcome. I'm Julie Medley. I'm the Executive Director for the Urban Land Institute here in Southeast Florida and the Caribbean. And you may ask yourself, who is the ULI? Let me see. Oh. So we are a nonprofit organization. Oh, I'm going to move it here too. Or not. We're a nonprofit organization that was founded in 1936 by our members, and we're a member-led organization. We have 45,000 members globally, and 1,300 of them are here in Southeast Florida. The types of our membership are listed right there. We have developers, architects, planners, engineers, any type of real estate, any type of asset class. We also bring the private and the public sector together. So the mission of the Urban Land Institute is to shape the future of the built environment. Sorry, I have not memorized this. It changed recently, so we had it memorized. And then for transformative impact on communities worldwide. And how we do that is by connecting our members and by doing engagements like this, where we consult on land use challenges. And we're very excited to have you here and looking forward to hearing your input, because without it, we won't be able to get the right and be able to take the appropriate steps to give you the recommendations that you need. And I'd like to introduce my colleague, Lauren.
Thanks, Julie. My name is Lauren Callahan. I'm the Senior Director of Advisory Services for the Urban Land Institute, and I'm here to tell you a little bit more about the Advisory Services Program. All right, so the Advisory Services Program has been around for 75 years. And for that 75 years, ULI has been bringing together teams of volunteer experts from our multidisciplinary membership of developers and lawyers and architects and urban designers and public officials, anyone in the land use, real estate, urban planning space, to provide independent, unbiased advice to communities worldwide. In fact, during the last 75 years, we have completed over 700 advisory services panels across the globe. And here locally in Southeast Florida and the Caribbean, we have conducted more than 40 ULI advisory services offerings, both with local and national volunteer experts. So to give you a little sense of what we've done we will be doing this week is our advisory services panels are broken into three main sections. We start by listening and learning. That includes listening to our sponsor team, in this case, the City of Fort Lauderdale, learning more about the topic at hand. Then we do a site visit where we get to actually do a tour and look see on the ground what's happening and what the challenge is. And you're going to learn a little bit more about that from Nancy Gassman in a minute. And then we also do stakeholder interviews. And this is an essential part of our process where we hear from people on the ground, stakeholders, residents, businesses, community members, key experts about what's happening. From there, our panel goes into a deliberation and recommendation period. This is where we take in all that information, all that we have learned, and we produce a set of recommendations that we hope can be implemented after the panel has completed. And that's the completion of this process, which is the presentation of those recommendations to the public. And that will be happening on Thursday, March 14th, and we'll have a little bit more information about when that will occur shortly. So I'd like to turn it over to Jim Hyde, the chair of our panel, to start introductions for our panel of experts.
Thank you, Lauren. It's great to be here. This is really one of the, I think, great things that as a member of ULI we all get to do. And the team's put together a really outstanding group of individuals who provide a real cross-section and multiple geographies kind of view the issues and challenges that we've been faced with. I'm Jim Hyde. I'm from Northern California. I'm a landscape architect by background, focused on sustainable community design and then infill development in communities. Turn it over to Allison.
Hey, I'm Allison Anderson from Unabridged Architecture in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, right on the Gulf Coast. We've had our share of resilience challenges as well. I am an architect, and I specialize in sustainability and resilience and adaptation to climate change.
Hi there, I'm Hannah Glosser. I'm with HRNA Advisors. We're a planning, policy, and real estate firm, and I'm based in New York City. My background's in climate adaptation and resiliency planning, program design, and funding and financing. So thrilled to be here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris DeWitt. I'm with VHB in Williamsburg, Virginia. We are a planning, design, and engineering firm. My focus is on coastal resilience, community planning, and grant funding.
Hi, I'm Charnel Hicks. I'm the president of CH Planning, based in Philadelphia with offices in other places. I've been doing this for 35 years, and I love it. I've served on a number of these ULI panels, and I'm always thrilled with what comes out. My background is in land use and transportation planning, and I'm really happy to be here with you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Malika Rivers. I'm the founder and president of Pontum Resources. I am a consultant on public-private partnerships, so I work with governments and commercial real estate owners, operators, developers, to develop infrastructure and to develop the funding stacks around them, whether that be at the federal level, at the state level, or at the local level. I specialize in special assessment districts, which can help bring financing to the table as well.
Good evening. I'm Byron Stiggy from Level Infrastructure in New York. I'm a civil engineering consultant, and I bring expertise in assessing flood levels and flood risk resilience and adaptation strategies. I have experience in roadway design and utilities design, and we also do cost-benefit analysis at our practice. This is my fourth advisory services panel, so very happy to be here.
And now I'll turn it over to Nancy Gassman with the City of Fort Lauderdale.
I see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd, people who are at the forefront of this issue as part of the city. And so, someone changed one set of slides. Give me a second. Okay. So we're here. We've invited the ULI panel to come talk to us about the issue of developing criteria for road elevation. There we go. And so flooding has been a theme throughout the city of Fort Lauderdale in 2023, between having some significant extreme rainfall events and having 180 high tides this year that exceeded the threshold for flooding. This has truly been a year that highlights our challenges related to flooding concerns. And as part of that, the city has introduced a program called Fortify Lauderdale, which the goal is really to accelerate the work that we've been doing on stormwater issues and improve resiliency to the impacts of climate change, especially in our most vulnerable neighborhoods and communities. And as a result of this, we're currently working through a vulnerability assessment to sea level rise. We have invited the ULI panel here to give us some advice on setting criteria for road elevation. And we've announced that we are accelerating our current stormwater program with investments of $250 million to be completed in about a 3-year time frame, which is faster than we initially expected to get it done, and investing about another $500 million in 17 additional neighborhoods over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. So we are moving forward with both these efforts not in parallel. So we've already started the design work associated with these 17 additional neighborhoods, in addition to the 8 that we're currently working on for design and construction. So when you're talking about engineering solutions for roadways that become inundated, either through tidal flooding and to a lesser degree from rainfall events, you have a series of options as you move forward. You start with tidal valves. If tidal valves are not enough to resolve the issue, you look at seawalls. If seawalls don't resolve the issue, you look at stormwater improvements. If stormwater improvements don't get you everywhere you need to go, we start looking at pumping systems. And if pumping systems don't get you there, then we start a conversation about road elevation, which is why we're here today. So one of the things I want people to understand is that road elevation is not about putting down more asphalt. There are lots and lots of underground infrastructure that's associated with a roadway. You have storm drains, you've got underground pipes, you've got water infrastructure, you've got wastewater infrastructure, fire hydrants, meter boxes. In addition to that, you've got all the non-municipal utilities as well, FPL, TECO, AT&T, Comcast. And so when you start thinking about elevating a road, you have to think about elevating either the access to all of those other things, or you actually have to re-engineer how those other things work. If you elevate the road, you have to change your stormwater system. So a little something about thinking about the complexities, but that's not the only thing you have to think about, because when you elevate a road, you suddenly create a disconnection between the roadway and the private properties. And when you do that, for example, if we elevate the road by a foot, suddenly now the road is a foot above your driveway. The road is now a foot above your walkway. Your lawn is a foot below the edge of the roadway, and your lawn is a foot below. So as we start thinking about making these public investments, it also has an impact on the private side. And the term for this is harmonization. How do you get the road to start working with the private property again? And who takes on those costs? Because generally speaking, we do not use public dollars on private property. And so with that, I want you to understand what we've asked this panel to do. We've asked them to outline a set of recommendations that relate to a criteria that we can base a policy on for to equitably guide the selection of city-owned roadways for elevations. And in order to do that, we've asked them to look at developing a set of criteria to prioritize which roads should be elevated. And again, they're not talking about projects. They're talking about road types, number of properties impacted, frequency of flooding. At the end of this, they're going to give us the criteria. They're not going to say Main Street should go first, 2nd Street should go second. What they're going to say is use these criteria to prioritize the various roads that are subject to this type of flooding. They're going to consider how much the road should be raised. Should it be raised 6 inches? Should it be raised 18 inches? And they're going to clarify expectations on the issue of transitions between the public infrastructure and the private infrastructure, this idea of harmonization. And finally, they're going to make recommendations on how to pay for the public infrastructure versus the private infrastructure improvements. So they have a lot to do in the next 2 days, and we spent an intense day talking about the issues. And so with that, Lauren, I'm handing it back over to Lauren.
Thank you, Nancy. So, this is where I talk a little bit about what we'll call the rules of the road. So, we are here to listen. We are in that listening and learning portion of this panel process. And so, we want to hear from you. If you're interested in hearing our insights and listening to our recommendations, we really do recommend that you come to our final presentation or listen to the broadcast, which will be on the city's YouTube channel, on, here it is, on March 14th at 9 a.m. at the LA Lee YMCA or the Mizell Center. So, for this particular session, what we're going to do is I've received the speaker cards from those that are interested in speaking, and I'm going to call a couple of you up at a time to speak. We're going to switch the podium around to speak and hopefully provide us with your insights. I would also say that the back of this card has a comment section, so if you would prefer to submit your insight and your perspective in writing, please feel free to do so, and we will collect those at the end, and our panelists will have the opportunity to review those. So with that, to give a little bit of a frame to this conversation, I present, why should the city consider elevating or not elevating roadways? I'd first like to call up, and pardon me if I don't get pronunciation correctly, Judy Mudge and Jerry and Susie Bailey.
Hello there. I'm Judy Mudge. I've lived in Fort Lauderdale since 91, and before that in Pompano Beach. Been here a long time, living on Mola Avenue in the Solis Isles, and I'm starting to grow gills and fins. So, you go down Los Olas, then you turn right on the Isle of Capri. You go down, down, and then down some more. And we're really impacted by the king tides that seem to be lasting longer and happening more often. It's really frustrating. We're kind of the poster child. We get all the environmentalists coming when this happens. Oh, wow, taking pictures, everything. Then everybody goes away and nobody cares anymore. And we're living there with it. And it's been, for me, living there since 91, it was happening then as well. And the road becomes a river. Now, Mola Avenue is a one-lane road, so it shouldn't cost as much maybe to do our road. I hope. And unlike what everybody thinks, not everybody in Los Olas Isles has $1 billion. So we're looking for some help. And I was wondering, we just passed that big infrastructure Green New Deal thing. Can't we get any money from that? Isn't this what that money is for? Shouldn't Jared Moskowitz, our district congressman, maybe he could fight for us a little bit and get some money for this? It's Mola Avenue, I would say, is one of the, like I say, poster child. It's really horrific. Not only now during the king tides, but at any kind of rain that lasts for a while. We used to have scuppers in the seawall, and it would take the water back out. Because the seawall can't stop it. The water's coming from underneath, coming up. So the city made us fill all those scuppers in. The people back in the day kind of knew what they were doing with the scuppers. Now without the scuppers, it's even worse. There's nowhere for the water to go. Most of the year, even with the rain, all along Mola, along the side of the road, it's like a ditch, a muddy, rainy ditch. It's not good. And you got to drive your car through this much of salt water the whole fall, during the whole fall, besides hurricanes and everything else going on. So we really need your help, and I hope we're one of the projects that you do. I really hope and pray we are. My husband and I have been hoping for this for a long time. However, as salespeople, the first one up, that's not so good. The last one in usually gets the order, so I'm kind of worried. Thank you for hearing what we have to say, and look forward to some solutions. Thank you very much.
Hi. Hello. I'm Susie Bailey. I'm the founder of Residents for Resilience. First, I just want to say thank you to you all, because I'm a firm believer that great things happen when you share solutions. And that's what you all do. I mean, when I hear from where all you're from, it's amazing, and I'm hoping we can learn so much. One of the comments that we constantly get at Residents for Resilience is, what are going to be our options? And another thing is, a lot of residents are concerned because they don't have enough information so that they can start thinking about adjustments that might have to be made to be able to mitigate flooding. So these are really major issues that it's so nice to see you opening up to the public, and I wish there were more people here, because it's really difficult to care about what you don't know about. And if we don't know what's coming, like for instance, how high the sea levels is, and you can do what you want, but where are you going to put the water? You've got to, and I saw in here on one of Dr. Gassman's slides, it had the different, it went from pumping to, I'm trying to think, in between, after pumping, what I didn't see was where you're going to move the water. And we know that you can't pump into an area that's already flooding. And you know that but where are you going to put that water? And so a lot of people, I'm not sure if they understand the fact that, where they need to ask, where are we going to move this water to? And I guess I'm going to ask you all, I know about 6 years ago I brought up temporary watersheds. And I know that the day after I brought it up at a meeting, the ULI came in and they brought up the Huizinga Park. I actually mentioned Huizinga Park as a temporary water storage place, area. We're not hearing a lot about possibly taking public areas and making them into temporary water storage, or what are the solutions now that you all are going to suggest for us to move that water? Because there are certain areas that continually, as you all know, flood over and over. And I think the only way you're ever going to mitigate that, especially if you raise the roads, is before you can do that, you have to at least tell our residents or share with them where you're going to move that water. So thank you.
Thanks, Judy and Susie. John Roth, would you join us, please?
Good afternoon. My name is John Roth. I've lived here 33 years now. Moved here from Brazil, but I've lived in 5 different places in the world and lived and worked in 40 different countries around the world for Caterpillar. And so that means I'm a quasi-civil engineer. I get called in on lots of disaster items, and it's kind of like the movie Don't Look Up at the asteroid that's coming, and everybody says, well, why should we do that? And the thing is that we already know that the asteroid's coming in the form of a wall of water to our low-lying areas, and everybody says, so what? And it's amazing how few people in this city understand that we are living in the bottom of a bathtub, that every time it rains, and it's going to get worse, and we're subjecting ourselves to running out at least the next day to go buy a high underclearance vehicle or a boat, and I have both, by the way. And I live at one of the very lowest points of the city, which is down at the ends of Solis Isles next to Chima Steakhouse, in case for point of reference. And so people don't know what's going on, but I can tell you firsthand the experiences. My first experience when I moved to Miami was I was sent to Ecuador to try to clean up a giant oil field project that had just been started in the upper reaches of the Amazon. And they said they had a terrible disaster down there. They tried to put in a new oil field processing plant, and the guys in Houston told them to build it where the government told them to build it. And they got there, and they built it, and a couple of weeks later, the whole thing flooded with 25 feet of water. And the guys, and I sold $35 million worth of equipment as a result of all that damage, and I have photos of it. It was wonderful, money from heaven. But when I got there, I talked to some of the old timers that were there, and they said, well, we're building our new campsite up on the top of the mountain. I said, why did they build it down there? Well, the smart guys thought that they could do it by satellite and aviation photos and stuff. And this is what the level is, and everybody will be safe, and we can put our processing here. Well, it didn't work. But the unique thing is today, and even then, this was 25 years ago, that I got 30 years ago, the Indians were there, and they all lived up on high ground, and they even had tree houses high up in the trees. And the oil field people from Texas came and said, why are the Indians living in tree houses up in the trees? And they're sitting there pointing at us, laughing at us, and inviting their friends over with their canoes, and they're all having a great old time. Because the Indians knew very well that on the 1st of September, practically every year, the water is going to come up 30 feet. How about that? Well, the county person responsible for flooding, Dr. Gerardo, has shown us all these maps and stuff that are the equivalent of the asteroids coming, and the wall of water is coming, and people, we have to do something about it. Well, we're not going to do something about it in 5 years or 10 years. This is almost like laying plans, not laying plans to get out of Dodge if things are bad. If you read the story about how the train couldn't get out of Key Largo, and when the hurricane was coming, and they only had one track, and the guy didn't have a cutter to cut a cable that was across the track, and all that stuff, and saying, shouldn't we have 10 trains lined up, ready for emergency evacuation? Emergency evacuation on the only high ground we have? Why did they permit, apparently, the reduction in the size of the road into Paradise, California, when they knew that the place was a fire trap? There was no way out, and they took a 2-lane road and made it into 1 lane, or 3 lanes into 2 lanes, and the people all got choked in the choke points. We're still building roads and doing on road diets around here that say, well, we want to slow the traffic down and not give people free flow. That's the wrong way to go, guys. And they don't realize this. I have a different perspective on this. I have my boat parked out closer than my car, and I have a high underclearance car because I live in low ground. In Illinois, when I lived out there, the river came up every spring. And every spring, the people who lived down near the river moved everything back from the riverbanks and lived in their trailer or their house. And when the government gave them a check to rebuild the house that flooded, they moved back. Well, the government finally decided they weren't going to pay those insurance bills anymore, and said, hey, move your house or do something else, but we're not paying. So they picked up their house and moved it 200 yards up across the field and had a new house. And now, the river goes up and goes down and we don't have all this damage. But it takes, an event. And unfortunately, we had, Steve, when was the date we had the big rain? April 12th. April 12th, we had the big 20-some-odd inches of rain here. And, I've been called in on 3 occasions, twice in Houston and once in New Orleans, when this happened down there. Because why? The water is so high that regular high interclearance vehicles don't work. But the great big Caterpillar machines that contractors have, and we commandeer them from the contractors, and we give them for public service temporarily with a guarantee that we'll fix them if necessary. And I have a great picture for you all, anyone who wants it. One of the machines loaded with people being saved by the National Guard with this kind of stuff. You have to think ahead. If you don't have things in advance, machinery, boats, all these right-of-ways, signs, a plan for people to work when these emergencies happen, then you're really into trouble for loss of life. But in the meantime, long term, you have to think about the government needs to be admonished you need to provide a sufficient right-of-way for people to escape these problems. I've talked enough. Everybody understands what's going up. Don't look up at the asteroid, and don't look at the wave of water coming over the dike from the Everglades. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'd now like to call up Herbert Taylor.
Hi, I'm Herb Taylor. I have both an engineering and a real estate background. I wouldn't be here tonight if we didn't have a lot of trouble with water, so I'm not going to bore you with all the trouble that we have. I've done a lot of thinking about what a solution would be, and I can't find one short of lowering the canal. And really what I hope is that you'll at least take a look at our street and see if you can help figure out some way to deal with the water. We were one of the first streets to get the experimental drains, and that still hasn't really done the job for us. So we're in the Riviera Isles, Flamingo Drive. Take a look at it. Help us. Thanks.
Thank you, Herbert. I'd like to call up Frank Shannon. And after Frank will be Trudy Love.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you all very much for coming. Frank Shannon, I live at Flamingo Drive. I've owned the house since 2009. I live right down the street from Herb and Ruth Taylor. It's just incredible the amount of water. We have 8 to 12 inches of water in our street, going almost the full length of the street every time there's a king tide. There are some seawall problems, but code enforcement has been working with us, and we have right now 6 new seawalls being built on our street of 34 homes, and 2 other homes are doing repairs and elevating, capping the seawall. So the residents are making their effort and putting their money up, but it's just incredible the volume of water. And then when it tries to leave, it can't leave because the tide's so high and the backflow preventer valves won't allow the water to go out. And it's just incredible. I hope you would consider looking at our street really carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Trudy?
Yes. Hi, good evening. My name is Trudy Love. Reading the sign, why should the city consider elevating? I am not your profession. I'm a retired flight attendant, so therefore I know nothing about what you do. I can only share with you what goes on in my community and hope with your expertise that you'll be able to help us. First of all, I live in local Fort Lauderdale, born and raised here. I'm east of I-95 and I'm west of 1st Street. So that's the Dorset Bend area between Sunrise and Broward. Okay, when it rains, they're talking about flooding. We get flood up to here a lot of times and even up to here, waist deep. When that rain fell in April, it was really, really horrible in our neighborhood, and this is something that happens frequently. In addition to that, I know the person said about they live over off the Solis Isles and they don't have millions. Well, let me just tell you the medium income range in my neighborhood. So we therefore really can use some assistance, probably $50,000, okay? So we don't have the funding that it would take to be able to help our community. In addition to that, a lot of times when it does rain east, they have used the waterways to flood them over to our community, which is very unfair. Yes, they have. And so therefore, we really need help. We really need assistance. And again, you all look at whatever data that you need, but we really would appreciate if we can get some assistance in the 33311 area code. Thank you.
Thank you, Trudy. We have a few minutes left in the session. If I'd like to invite anyone else who would like to speak and provide some insight to the panel to step up. No problem if you don't mind introducing yourself.
No
Thank you.
Hello there. My name is Norby Bells. I don't technically live in the planned area. I live just north of it. I live on Oakland at A1A, and there's that underpass under Oakland that was previously flooded continuously, and they came out and built a nice wall, but the flooding now comes back underneath the soup pipes, and it makes that a lake in there. So I'm really hoping in this process you guys consider the ability of, you mentioned harmonization and that coordination, because we really need to see the efforts of, multiple city departments, multiple experts as you all, because it's like sometimes when the left hand does something, we don't know what the right hand's doing. And so I'm really hoping in this effort, we really take a coordinated look at other things too, and not just only the water issues, but the other resiliency issues that we really could have help with, which is power lines, all these other things you mentioned in this process. So I'm really hopeful in this experience that you guys take a look at all of those pieces and look at how we can create a solution that can help our city, not in the next year or two, but way into the future. Because I think that's where we see a lot of challenges, that we do kind of these bandages to help right now. And those bandages sometimes don't help in the way that we want them to help. So thank you for your efforts. We appreciate it very much. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, if there's no one else. Oh, please do.
Hi, I'm Jerry Bailey. Thank you for all being here. It sounds like from your qualifications, we have just the right people up there. But I was wondering, we're fortunate enough to live on the north side of Las Olas, so we don't have nearly the amount of problems when it floods as the south side. But I'm wondering, when my wife asked, where do you put the water? And that's my wonder. Where do you put the water, especially when the groundwater is so high a lot of the times? Is there any consideration to just outright, the city or the federal government outright buying properties and making above ground holding tanks for the water? Because if you can't put it underneath and you can't get it anywhere where it can viably be transported to, you're going to have to hold it somewhere. And I was just wondering if that would be on the table, of buying properties that are already in very bad flooding areas and just making them holding areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, well, we truly appreciate you coming out tonight, and I'd like to turn it back over to the commissioner to say.
Thanks. I don't think I need the microphone. I think I can handle this. On the broadcast. I'm sorry, I have to do that. I'm sorry. Okay. Can I go just go over this? Is this okay? All right. Thank you. Again, thank you so much for being here. I think you've heard some really great information today. I want you to know that at least for the last 6 years, the City Commission has made infrastructure resiliency a priority. Every January when we meet, to set our goals for the year, this is always one of those goals. So this is really, really important work. This is an important discussion. Thank you, everyone, for bringing everything that you brought to the table today, because I know that it's really going to go a long way in helping you. I would be remiss if I didn't thank our Public Works Department for working with ULI. I'm thrilled to be a part of this. And I wanted to thank Colonel Dodd and Dr. Gassman, wherever you went. Thank you. This is really, really important for us. So the discussion needs to happen. We can't hide from it. And I'm really looking forward to Thursday morning over at the YMCA. I'll be there, and I'm looking forward to it. Again, thank you, everyone, for coming, for your input, for caring, and making sure that we got this off to a good start. Thank you, ULI. Again, I look forward to seeing everybody on Thursday morning. Thank you. Thanks.
Yes, if you are unable to attend in person on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. at the YMCA,